Hello, welcome to Scale Modeling. This video is going to be part of a new series of tips and tricks that I'm going to put together. And this one will be how to clean your model. Though it's specifically model ships, it can be put into practice for any model really. And it's just from my own experience of what I find helps the most for doing this sort of thing. So there's a few options you can have that makes it a little bit easier when it comes to cleaning your models, and that's by having a case for them. Unfortunately, a lot of people either don't have the room or the money, because those things can cost a lot, glass cases. So unfortunately, models will get dirty, and in most cases your biggest enemy is dust. Dust comes from everything, and in certain situations it can be worse depending on how and where your model's stored. Now in my case, I have carpet where I am, and carpet attracts a lot of dust, but also along with dust is just dirt in the air. I also live in an area where there's a bit of traffic around, and pollution from cars and trucks come in and leave quite a layer of soot and stuff over your models. And though that may help in the weathering process in some cases, particularly with aircraft carriers, it's still something you don't want on your model. So I'm going to give a bit of an example of how quickly dust can build up. Let's swing the camera around and I'll show you what I have set up for my collection. And most people would have a similar situation. So these is just a nice display case here. It's completely open, and I use mirror backing and a mirror on the shelf looking up, because I like to show off the detail underneath and for both sides of the ship, so the mirrors help do that. They also collect a lot of dust, and I'll show you how much dust. Okay, so in this view here I've just shown my lounge area, and what I'm going to do is I have not dusted that TV stand there, which is the same brand and wood furniture as the shelf with my models on it. I haven't dusted that for about 3 weeks. So I've just left it there for 3 weeks. So I'm going to go over there now with just a plain paper towel and run it along there and see what we can pick up in the way of dust. Okay, back shortly. Okay, so let's just turn this camera around. Back here. All right. So 3 weeks is what I've had that have not dusted that for. Let's have a look at what I just picked up. There you go. Isn't that nice? One wipe along that, and that's what I've picked up. Now, not very good, is it? That is pretty much 3 weeks of what is sitting on the surface of all those models in my cabinet there. Yeah. So this is what I mean by, if you're going to go and build models, you need to upkeep them as well. Now, I would once a month at the minimum, once a month I would take every model off this shelf and others I have in another room, and I would clean them because you don't want that layer of muck sitting on your model and building up. So this is where we get into some of the tips and best ways, I think, to clean your model. Now, a lot of models like this one, for example, the Japanese heavy cruiser, the Chikuma, has a lot of small pieces and a lot of detailed work on it, which you've got to be careful that you don't want to be damaging. Now, there's a few tricks and ways of going about this. Now, you can start with a brush, and I'll use a brush like this that's got a soft bristles. Now, I don't have one here at the moment, but there are makeup brushes which are quite good, although some are very big and thick and not very good for this scale. If you're doing something bigger like 1/200 scale or 1/350 scale ships, it may be fine to use brushes that are a bit bigger, particularly if you're doing the sides and the hull, or you don't have too much detail to work around. This brush, I also have a smaller one here to get into some of the smaller spots as well. Now a lot of in a lot of cases, dust settles from the top down. So you're going to find more dust on the upper surfaces than you are on the side or on the bottom. In fact, most likely on the bottom you won't have to touch. Having said that, it's a good idea to start at the top when you're dusting and work your way down. Now, these brushes are good. I also have a smaller one, like these little applicators. And this has a small brush on it as well. And that's good for getting into little spots. Do this so you can see, get into spots. But make sure you're working in an area that's well lit. You can see what you're doing, because in this case I've got rigging on here as well that you have to avoid. For dust on rigging, it's just a matter of just wiping it down the line, clearing it. Now, another thing people use is you can get a can of compressed air. They're okay, but the problem is, in most cases, they're too much pressure, and you can just blow stuff right off your ship. So rather than using compressed air out of a can, I would use your airbrush and just come along, and you can control the pressure and work it along, blow the dust off. Your best bet is to first of all go along with both. So you can loosen it with the brush while you're blowing the dust off. Now, in most cases, it's a good idea to do this in a well-ventilated area, outside if you can, because the dust is just going to go settle somewhere else. If you're outside and it's open and there's a bit of a wind, the dust is going to blow away where you don't care, where it goes. So definitely give it a shot with your airbrush if you have one. It helps a lot. There are little puffers you can get. Photographers use them for cleaning the lenses. They're also good if you don't have an airbrush. That would also be a good idea. Now, also a thing I found too is that if you use a bit of water in a container, preferably distilled or boiled water to get the chemicals out of it, touch your brush in the water so that it's just damp. Most of your ships will have been clear coated to protect the paintwork. Will repel the water, it's not going to do any damage. But just so that there's a light amount of water on here, that will help pick up the dust and get the dust off. Just slightly doing that. Now again, I had to be careful there because I've got, probably can't see if there's rigging lines across there. But yeah, just go along. And that helps attract the dust up. Get that off as well. Now I wouldn't be spraying any chemicals on here, so don't get your, your spray cleaners and household stuff, because that's going to damage your paint. Don't do anything like that. I would avoid using any cleaning product on here. Just stick with your brush or your damp brush and compressed air, or just blowing it all off. It's also a good idea to take this time to just check for any repairs and anything that may have come unstuck, or make sure your little flags are still there and your photo etch is still all in place. Occasionally you come along and find that a bit of railing's let go. So just a little touch up and repairs while you're doing this is a good idea as well. In this case, I noticed a bit of railing had flicked off here, so I glued that back on. So that's all right again. So yeah, that's my tips for cleaning. Just, do it in a well ventilated, preferably outdoors if you can. Of course, the least you handle your model, the better as well. So don't take risks and move it too far away. You don't want to be bumping it or, God forbid, dropping it or anything like that. Not things. Handling your models and moving them about is something you don't want to do, or you want to do that as little as possible. So yeah, so do it outside if you can, using an airbrush to blow the air across it, or a puffer or something to blow the dust off. Nice soft brushes, depending on the size of your model, depending on the size of the brush. Go along and just slowly just give it a good wipe all the way through. And yeah, and damp, make them a little bit damp too, for some help lift off that dust and dirt, grime, whatever else is there. Yeah, so that's about it. So if, thanks for watching, and if you'd like to leave a comment below, maybe you've got some tips as well you can add in the comments, and suggestions, please do so. Subscribe if you haven't already, and give us a thumbs up if you like the video. And thanks for watching this little tips on how to clean your model, and I'll see you in the next series. Bye for now.